They say you never truly come back alone, that you carry your brothers with you, in your head, in your chest, in the way you wake up at 3 in the morning, listening for a sound that isn't there. We call it brotherhood. We call it a bond that defies the laws of physics or time. And usually, that's a metaphor. It's a way to explain the grief, to explain the empty chair at the reunion, or the contact name in your phone that you just can't bring yourself to delete. But for me, it wasn't a metaphor. It wasn't a poetic way to deal with loss. I never told my wife. I never told the VA doctors. I certainly didn't tell my commanding officer when they debriefed me in Germany, staring at me with those tired clipboard eyes, trying to piece together how a man survives 3 days cut off from his unit in a valley that swallows people whole. I lied to them. I told them I utilized my training. I told them I navigated by the stars and conserved my water. I gave them the textbook answers because the truth would have sounded like a hallucination. It would have sounded like I was broken beyond repair. So I kept him a secret. I buried him, deep down, under the layers of normal life, under the mortgage payments and the Sunday barbecues and the quiet drive to work. But sometimes, when the house is still, when the air gets heavy and the light from the street lamp stretches across the living room floor, I can still feel the weight of his hand on my shoulder. It's been 10 years, and I still find myself waiting for him to speak. The memory doesn't fade. That's the thing about the things we survive. The good memories, the birthdays, the weddings, they get soft around the edges, like an old photograph left in the sun. But the bad ones, the ones where you thought you took your last breath, they stay sharp, high definition. They don't age. I remember the dust. It wasn't just dirt. It was this fine, powdery grit that coated everything. It was in your eyelashes, in your teeth. It tasted like old copper and burnt rubber. We were on a routine patrol. That phrase always makes me laugh now. Routine. There is no such thing. We were moving through a sector that was supposed to be cold, cleared, quiet, and then the world just opened up. I don't remember the explosion. I remember the pressure, the way the air suddenly felt solid like a wall slamming into my chest. Then the silence, a ringing silence that drowns out everything else. When I woke up, the Humvee was gone. The road was gone. I was at the bottom of a ravine, half buried in shale and debris. My radio was dead. My rifle was jammed. And my leg felt like it belonged to someone else. Just a heavy, useless weight dragging behind me. I checked the perimeter. Habit, muscle memory. You do it before your brain even catches up to the pain. I was alone. That's a specific kind of cold. It starts in the stomach and spreads out to your fingertips, being alone in a place where everyone wants you dead. I tried to move, and the pain blinded me. White hot. I fell back against the rocks, breathing in that dust, waiting for the inevitable. I knew the math. I knew the odds. I was immobile, unarmed, and cut off. I closed my eyes. I made my peace. I thought about my mom. I thought about the girl I was dating back then who is my wife now. I thought about how small my life had been. And then I heard the boots. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Slow, deliberate. Not the hurried scramble of an enemy fighter. The heavy rhythmic tread of standard-issue combat boots. I tried to reach for my sidearm, but my hands wouldn't work. The adrenaline was crashing. I just lay there looking up at the ridge, waiting to see who would end it. A figure slid down the embankment, a silhouette against the harsh white sky. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. He moved with a kind of calm efficiency that seemed completely out of place in that chaos. He hit the bottom of the ravine, took a knee, and scanned the ridgeline. Then he turned to me. He was wearing our uniform, dust-covered, frayed at the knees, sweat-stained around the collar. No rank insignia, or maybe it was just too dirty to see. He had a face that looked like everyone I had ever served with, and no one specifically. Young, but with eyes that looked 100 years old. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't ask for a sit rep. He just looked at my leg, then looked at me. "Get up," he said. His voice wasn't loud. It wasn't shouting over the wind. It was flat, calm, like he was telling me to pass the salt. "I can't," I whispered. My throat was full of gravel. Legs done. He didn't offer sympathy. He didn't offer a pep talk. He just stood up, walked over, and grabbed me by the vest. He hauled me up like I weighed nothing. The pain shot through me, turning the world gray, but he held me steady. He put my arm over his shoulder and took the weight. "We're moving," he said, and we moved. I don't know how long we walked. It felt like days. It might have been hours. Time stops working when you're in that much pain. He knew the terrain. He knew paths that weren't on any map I had ever seen. He navigated us through dry creek beds and narrow fissures in the rock, always keeping us below the skyline, always keeping us hidden. He never drank water. I offered him my canteen once halfway through the night when my own thirst was making my tongue swell. He just shook his head and kept scanning the dark. "Save it," he said. "You need it." He didn't talk much. No stories about back home. No jokes about the chow. Just simple, direct commands. "Head down. Wait here. Move now." There was a comfort in it. A heavy, unspoken comfort. I wasn't the leader anymore. I wasn't responsible for the mission. I just had to follow him. I just had to match his step. He was the anchor. As long as he was moving, I could move. If he wasn't afraid, I didn't have permission to be afraid. We stopped just before dawn on the second day. My body was shutting down. The infection in my leg was spreading. I could feel the heat of it radiating through my pants. I slumped against a boulder, shivering uncontrollably. The desert gets so cold at night. It cuts right through you. He sat opposite me. He still had his rifle across his knees. He was watching the horizon, watching for the first light. "Why?" I asked him. My voice was barely a croak. He looked at me. "Why what? Why did you come back? You weren't with my squad. I don't know you." He didn't answer immediately. He looked at the sky, watching the stars fade out one by one. The silence between us felt thick, solid. "Does it matter?" he asked. "I need to know who to thank," I said. "When we get back, I need to know your name." He looked at me again, and for the first time his expression changed, just slightly, a softening around the eyes. Or maybe it was just the shadows shifting. "You don't need to thank me," he said. "Just keep walking. That's the job. We keep walking." He stood up. He pulled me up again. The contact was physical. I felt the rough fabric of his uniform against my cheek. I felt the grip of his hand on my gear. I smelled the CLP oil on his rifle and the stale sweat of a long patrol. He was real. He was there. He was the only thing keeping me tethered to the earth. We crested the final ridge around noon. I saw them before they saw us. A patrol of Levies sitting in the valley floor, dusting off a landing zone. The glorious, ugly shapes of American armor. I tried to shout, but nothing came out. I stumbled, I fell. This time he didn't pick me up. I looked up at him. He was standing a few feet away, silhouetted against the sun. He wasn't looking at the vehicles. He was looking at me. "Go," he said. "Come on," I wheezed. I reached out a hand. "We made it, they're right there." He didn't move. He just stood there, watching me. The wind was picking up, whipping the dust around his boots. "You're safe now," he said. "We both are," I argued. "Come on, man, don't stop now." He shook his head slowly. "I can't go down there." "Why not?" He didn't answer. He just took a step back, then another, back toward the rocks, back toward the hostility of the ravine. "Wait!" I tried to crawl toward him. "Where are you going?" He stopped one last time. He looked at me with that same calm, ancient expression. "You made it," he said. "That's what matters." I turned my head for a second, just a fraction of a second, to look at the lavs, to wave my arm, to signal for help. When I looked back, the ridge was empty. Just dust, just rocks, just the heat shimmering in the air. I thought he had taken cover. I thought he was flanking. I screamed for the medics when they got to me. I grabbed the first guy by the collar, a kid from the 101st, and I shook him. "The other guy," I screamed. "Get the other guy. He's up on the ridge." They looked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. They checked the ridge. They sent a drone up. They scanned with thermals. Nothing. "There's no one out there, Sergeant," the medic told me, sticking a needle in my arm. "You're the only heat signature for 5 miles. "He was right there," I insisted. "He carried me. He walked with me for 2 days. The medic just looked at me with that pity they save for the head cases. "You've lost a lot of blood, Sarge. Dehydration, concussion. The mind plays tricks. Tricks. That's what they called him. A trick. A firing neuron. A glitch in the survival instinct. I spent 6 weeks in the hospital. I went through the after-action reports. I checked the casualty lists. I checked the rosters of every unit operating in that sector. No one matched his description. No one was missing. No one had been out there. According to the U.S. Army, I had walked out of that valley alone. According to the doctors, I had hallucinated a companion to keep myself from giving up, a psychological projection, a coping mechanism. And for a long time, I tried to believe them. It makes sense, right? The brain is a powerful thing. It doesn't want to die. If it needs to invent a friend to keep the legs moving, it invents a friend. But here is the thing that keeps me awake. Here is the thing that I stare at when the ceiling fan spins in the dark. When I got home, when I finally unpacked my gear bag that they had shipped back from theater, I found my vest, the one I was wearing that day, the one he had grabbed to haul me up. There was a tear in the shoulder strap, and embedded in the nylon, caught in the weave of the fabric, was a piece of distinctive coarse threading, the kind they use on standard issue gear. But it wasn't from my uniform. It was green. My uniform was tan, and there was a bruise on my left shoulder, just under the collarbone. 4 distinct points of pressure, like fingers. A bruise that perfectly matched the grip of a hand hauling a dead weight off the ground. I stood there in my garage holding that vest, and the room felt suddenly cold. The silence of the suburbs felt louder than the mortar fire. If I made him up, if he was just a ghost in my machine, then who picked me up? Who left the bruise? I sat on the concrete floor of the garage and I wept, not because I was safe, but because I realized I had left him there. Whatever he was, whoever he was. I walked away and he stayed in the dust, and now years later the feeling hasn't left. I'm a civilian now. I wear jeans, I drive a sedan, I pay taxes, but part of me is still waiting for him to give the order. Part of me is still looking for that silhouette on the ridge. Sometimes, when I'm driving alone at night, I look in the rearview mirror, expecting to see him in the back seat, just sitting there, calm, watching the perimeter. I never told anyone because they would say I'm haunted, but I don't feel haunted. Ghosts are supposed to be scary, right? They're supposed to want something from you. He didn't want anything, he just wanted me to live. But the question isn't who he was. The question is, why? Why me? Why did I get a guardian when so many better men died alone in the dirt? That's the math that never balances. That's the equation that keeps you staring at the wall. Guilt is a heavy thing, but it's even heavier when you owe your life to someone who doesn't exist. Or maybe he does exist, just not in the way we understand. Yesterday I was at the park with my son. He's 7 now. Loud, happy, oblivious to the way the world works. He was climbing on the jungle gym, hanging upside down, laughing. I was watching him, sipping coffee that had gone cold, scanning the tree line. Always scanning. And I saw him. Not my son. Him. Just standing there, by the edge of the playground where the trees get thick and the shadows start to pool. He wasn't wearing the uniform anymore. He was wearing a flannel jacket, gray, worn at the elbows, jeans that didn't fit right. But the posture, you don't lose that posture. Shoulders locked, head on a swivel, hands loose but ready. The world around me seemed to tilt. The screaming of the kids, the squeak of the swings, the traffic on the main road. It all dialed down to a hum, a low, static buzz. The only clear thing was him. I dropped my coffee cup. It hit the grass. I didn't care. I started walking toward him. My legs felt heavy, like I was back in that ravine, wading through the shale. Every step was a fight against the instinct to freeze, to take cover. He saw me coming. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He just watched me close the distance, his face unreadable. That same ancient, tired calmness. "Hey," I said. My voice sounded thin, weak in the open air. He didn't answer. He just looked at me, then shifted his gaze past my shoulder, toward the jungle gym, toward my son. "I looked for you," I said. I was 5 feet away now. I could see the lines around his eyes. He looked older than he did in the desert, but he didn't look like a ghost. He looked solid. He took up space. I checked the rosters. I checked everywhere. You weren't there. He turned his eyes back to me. I was there. "Who are you?" I demanded. It came out desperate, broken. "Just tell me who you are." He adjusted his stance, shifted his weight. The movement was so familiar it made my chest ache. It was the way we all stood, the universal language of waiting. "You know who I am," he said quietly. "No, I don't. I don't know your name. Names are just tags," he said. He looked at the ground, then back at me. "I'm the guy who didn't make it out of the valley." My blood went cold. Not the weather cold, the internal cold. The kind that stops your heart between beats. I made it out, I whispered. You carried me out. He shook his head, very slowly. I carried you as far as I could. You did the rest. He took a step back, into the shade of the oak tree. The light was shifting, the sun dipping behind a cloud, and for a second, the shadows seemed to wrap around him. Why? I asked. The tears were stinging my eyes now, hot and angry. Why me? Why do I get to stand here and watch my kid play? He looked at my son again. My boy was hanging by his knees, laughing at the sky. A pure, unburdened sound. The soldier looked at him, and for the first time his expression broke. It wasn't a smile. It was something deeper. A kind of relief. Because someone had to, he said. That's the math. Someone has to carry the story. I'm tired of carrying it, I said. And it was the truth. It was the first time I had admitted it. It's too heavy. He nodded. He understood. I know. It's supposed to be heavy. That's how you know it's real. He stepped further back. The shadows were claiming him now. The flannel jacket seemed to blend into the bark of the tree. The edges of him were getting fuzzy. Don't go, I said. I reached out. I still owe you. You don't owe me, he said. His voice was fading like a radio signal losing range. You just have to finish the patrol. What patrol? The war is over. The patrol, he said. The long one. The one where you raise that boy. The one where you grow old. That's the mission now. Don't drop out. He turned. He didn't fade away like movie magic. He just turned and walked into the trees. Casual. Calm. Like he was heading to the chow hall. I ran. I pushed past the branches. I stumbled over the roots. I broke through the tree line into the parking lot on the other side. Empty. Just a couple of empty cars. A trash can overflowing with wrappers. The wind blowing a loose newspaper across the asphalt. He was gone. I stood there for a long time, scanning, listening, waiting for the crunch of boots. But there was only the sound of the wind and the distant traffic. I walked back to the playground. My hands were shaking. My breath was shallow. Daddy! My son ran up to me, breathless, face flushed with excitement. He grabbed my hand. His grip was small, sticky, and incredibly strong. Did you see me? He asked. I went all the way to the top. I looked down at him. I looked at his hand holding mine. And then I looked at my own shoulder. The place where the bruise had been years ago. The place where the phantom hand had grabbed me and pulled me out of the grave. I realized then that the bruise wasn't just an injury. It was a baton pass. It didn't matter if the soldier was a hallucination. It didn't matter if he was an angel or a ghost, or just my own brain refusing to let me die. He was real because I was here. I was the proof of his existence. Every breath I took was his legacy. Every morning I woke up was a page in his book. I saw you, I told my son. My voice was steady now. The gravel was gone. I saw you go all the way to the top. I picked him up. I felt his weight. Solid. Warm. Alive. We walked to the car. I buckled him in. I got in the driver's seat and closed the door. The silence inside the car was different now. It wasn't the heavy, suffocating silence of the ravine. It was just quiet. I adjusted the rearview mirror. I looked at the back seat. Empty. Just a booster seat and a stray toy. But I didn't feel alone. Not anymore. I put the car in gear. I looked at the tree line one last time. I gave a single small nod. Not a salute. Just a nod. Acknowledgement. We carry them. That's what we do. We don't get over it. We don't move on. We just learn to build a life around the empty chair. We learn to walk for two. The war ends. The noise stops. The uniform comes off. But the watch never ends. So I'll keep walking. I'll keep breathing. I'll keep watching the perimeter. Not because I'm afraid, but because I'm living for the both of us. And if you're out there, if you're carrying a weight that nobody else can see, if you have a brother who only exists in the silence of your own head, you aren't crazy. You aren't broken. You're just the designated survivor. You're the vessel. Keep moving. Keep walking. That's the job. If you understand the weight of the empty chair, if you are carrying someone with you today, type "I stand watch" in the comments. Let's honor the ones who didn't come back by living for them. Dismissed.